why don't I give you just my philosophy? Now, the beauty of it is that you have the model right behind you, so I'm almost going to want to point there rather than point here sometimes. But I think you guys, to understand how we approach the design of the building, I'll give you kind of our technique, okay? And it's a little bit of a trade secret, so don't steal my secret. But basically, to come up with this design, we basically looked at the past. We looked at the past that was right in front of us. So if you look outside at the building across the street, it's very evident. There's a typology, there's a pattern of architecture with all three buildings on this corner. And they're comprised of basically a two-story limestone base with a series of arches, and then a main body of the building which is in brick with punched openings. Now, none of these buildings have a tower above it, but what we've done is, because we're building contemporary building, we're going to have a tower sitting on top of it. So we basically studied the heritage of the context, right? We studied this building, we studied this building, and we said, how can we do a modern interpretation of those buildings? And 101 Spadina is our solution. So what you'll find is we basically took the same idea. We took a two-story limestone base with a series of arches, and then the podium, punched openings with brick. But then we created this motif of arches that then exist on the ground floor, here at the podium, and then we brought that all the way up into the sky. Now, why is that important? It's important, I think, for a couple reasons. For me, a building exists in different scales. It exists at the ground plane, where you interact with the building. So it exists right here. When you are in this park, right, you're going to be where that parking lot is, you're going to be sitting here looking back at the building. You really don't see the rest of the building. You see the series of arches. You experience the building at that level. That's at the pedestrian scale, the human scale. Now, these arches become familiar. They become almost like a signal or an icon of the building. Now, when you're imagine driving on the Gardiner into the city, and you're looking into the distance in the skyline. What are you going to see? You're going to see this in the distance, right? You're going to see this series of arches. So if you look at the model behind you, you can see that beautiful arcade that's perched up at the top of the building. So as you're driving in, you see that in the distance, and you may never have been to the building before. And then you come down and you drive up Spadina, and then you're presented with this facade, and you're going to recognize it's the same building. Now, when you're buying a home, that's what you want. You want to be able to say, I live there. This is where I live. You know, imagine if you lived in that building, that glass building right there, and you asked somebody, hey, tell me where you live, give me directions. And you said, well, I live in the glass building on Spadina. You're going to be like, which glass building? There's no way to identify them. They have no character. This is a character building. So this is what we're talking about the relationship of the arches to the park to these existing buildings. So you can see very clearly this pattern of architecture is reflected in the pattern of architecture of our building. So the other thing that makes this project completely unique and unlike any other building that you can buy anywhere in this neighborhood is the fact that you have a 10,000 square foot park right at your doorstep. That alone, to me, I think is a huge benefit. It gives you unobstructed views. Also, just gives you that relief. It gives you, we are still in the city. We're at the boundary between the downtown core and King West. So having that park really gives you that breathability. And because we're on Spadina, which is a very wide boulevard, you get that breathing room in that direction as well. So for being in a very dense area, it will feel very spacious. And then, as Charles mentioned, so of those two areas that we talked about, the two most important areas, not most important, but the two feature areas of the building where you have these arches, on the second floor and on the roof is where we put all the amenity. So we give those back to the residents. We don't let that just be to the penthouse apartment up at the top. We give that back as the amenity space.